joining us today. We're going to talk about referrals. And if you're new to this session, we ask you to get your chat fingers warmed up. We like to start out with a question, have you guys throw your thoughts in chat. And so that question is going to be, realistically, what percentage of your business comes from referrals versus what you desire it to be? So many of us want a referral-based business. I know the three of us have talked about that. Realistically, when we talk to sales professionals, that number is somewhat lower than what they want it to be. So throw in chat, what is that? And if you're a manager on this call, think about your team holistically. You know, what percentage of their business is referrals versus what you all would like it to be? Let's see what we've got happening in chat. So not sure. Appreciate that, Kirsten. 80 to 95%. I love that. 90 to 95% referrals. That'd be a great, great business. So we've got some other numbers in here. 65%, 75%. That is excellent.
Some good percentages there.
Those are really good percentages.
Jeez. Christy's at 90 to 95%, almost all referrals. That's amazing.
Christy Howell, very good.
Very nice. 50 would like 80. Trish, 70%. No surprise there, John. You did refer to her as a rock star.
She is, yeah. Trish asks regularly for referrals. Yeah.
That is excellent. So appreciate the input there. Keep it coming as you think about that. I see 50% would love 75. So hopefully we can give you something here today that will help you inch those percentages up. I know that, you know, if I'm at 95%, I certainly would like 96. The point that I want to start with is money does grow on trees. They grow on referral trees. So question that I have for you guys as we think about this, why don't our clients get more referrals, or why don't sales professionals that we engage with, why don't they get more referrals? We obviously have a great group of people here who are killing it with referrals by the numbers we're seeing, but on the average, why don't sales reps get more referrals, John or Tim?
They don't ask. That's a simple, I mean, that's the most common thing. It's simply don't ask.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and it's, and you know, we won't have time to get granular in this call, but I would even say, even the people that were able to answer and they have a high number, I'd be very curious to how much of that referral is a result of proactive asking as opposed to, you know, hey, we are referred because it's our brand or people know us. How much of it's actually proactive?
That's a great question. And I would ask people to chime in on that as you have thrown your numbers in there. How much of that number is because you are asking versus you're the known quantity in town or you've got the brand recognition, et cetera. So I'm very interested in that question. I think that's a great one to ask, John. Tim? How about from your perspective?
Yeah, I think, you know, the Stephen Lowell and Pat O'Brien both jumped in and said that they're afraid to ask. Like fear is a barrier to getting more referrals. And there's a variety of reasons that I see out in the field with salespeople. They tend to want to have delivered unbelievable service for an extended period of time. And then they assume that the referrals will come from that, and so they don't actually ask. And to go tag on to John, but yeah, the fear is always you know, fear of being rude, fear of, you know, assuming that you're doing an amazing job gets in the. I think that's what I see the most.
Yeah, fear of hearing no, fear of failure, fear of success. Right. That's always one that comes in there to play, I think. It's telling, John, nobody's chimed in on your question. So would love to hear from you guys on John's question there. How much of your success in referrals is because you're asking? Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I think there's a couple of really good things here. And I mean, I think this is a really important discussion. And I think you've got to ask yourself always a question, right? I don't care if you're like Pat said, Pat O'Brien's, they've got a great insurance agency. And, we've talked, and Pat and I have talked about this before. People are afraid to ask. But here's a question you have to always ask yourself. What if the opposite were true?
Right.
What if the salespeople were not afraid to ask? What if they had a process, which we're going to talk about today, asking what difference would it make to your business? Because these things are all fixable. First is awareness, right? So good on Pat to say they're afraid to ask. Well, let's figure out why that is, move beyond that. And then what if the opposite were true? But asking for referrals is a proactive process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trish just validated what you had said about her. 80% of the time she's asking. Cecily, thank you. About half the time it's proactive. However, even when we're asking, not sure it's the right way. So let's break this down a little bit. So I think that, and this is, if you're new to this call, this is not designed to be all encompassing, right? We're picking a few points on the referral topic and giving you some takeaways based on it. But number one, we do it at the wrong time, generally speaking, right? So what do we mean by that, John? We do this at the wrong time.
Well, it's an interesting question, and the answer that I would like to be able to give you is there's never a wrong time to ask for referrals. However, I think to your point, what happens is so many people that I talk to think, well, I haven't done anything for them yet, and I have to wait till I've done something, as you said. Yeah. And I can tell you in my business, which I look back at my numbers in 2020, 68% of my business came from referrals.
Okay.
I track it carefully, and 68% came from referrals. And some of my best referrals have come from people where I was not a good fit for them, right? We didn't do business together, right? We're not asking somebody to put us in their will or donate a kidney. We're simply saying, right? I mean, it's amazing how much importance we can put on these things. We're simply saying, based on our conversation, is there anybody you think I might be a good fit for to have a conversation, right?
My favorite example that I use when I'm training in front of the classroom, and this happened a few times when I was a client, I would have a cold call, for example, and John and I, if pretend he's the person I'm calling, we would have a wonderful conversation, but it just wasn't a fit. And I was always challenged to say, John, can I ask you a question? Is it fair to say we've had a good conversation? And John would say, absolutely, had a great conversation. You made me think, you asked great questions. Okay. As you think about your circle of influence, who deserves to have or who needs to have this same type of conversation today? And invariably, they would blurt out a name without even thinking about it. And I'd say, well, why Tim Barry? Right. And John would go on to say, well, Tim was just talking about how, he needs more, A, B, or C in his life. And that would lead down the path of a referral. So, doing it sooner, doing it in situations where you may not be comfortable. But back to this, Tim, thoughts on the wrong time from your perspective?
Yeah, I think that when I think of the wrong time, really what's the opposite of that? Then what's the right time? And for me, right when you close a sale, that's when your prospect, now client, is in love with you the most. They've sealed the deal with a kiss, and you've got yourself a newly minted client. And so the right time is literally right when you close the deal, because you're on that honeymoon phase. And so that's absolutely, for me, that's just a thought that I wanted to get in there. So
yeah, and I think our heads get in the way a little bit, right? We try to convince ourselves that, when I've delivered outstanding service, when they realize the value of the product, and that often comes with its own set of problems, because I've learned that no project goes smoothly. There's always a speed bump. Communication gets disrupted. So the moment something slightly off base happens, I talk myself out of the referral. Well, I'm not going to do it now because, and then we get into trouble.
Yep.
I think the second thing that happens is we take the wrong approach. And when we were kind of preparing for this, I had said to you guys that it's often the dentist approach. Hey, the next time you think of, somebody who needs a dentist, keep me in mind. Right? Now, why doesn't that approach work from your guys' perspective?
I want to take this one because, first of all, I did get a referral to an outstanding dentist, and I'm really mad at my wife that she didn't convince me much sooner that it was a great referral, and I missed out for a long time. And it's an interesting thing to think about, right? Sometimes, how much do our potential clients miss out on doing business with us because we don't ask? If we have that belief we're the right fit. Pat O'Brien has another thing in here. He said, we have a salesperson that says he asks all the time and he doesn't get any response. And the reason is, more than likely, it's the approach. We tend to say, hey, Tim, hey, by the way, if you know anybody you think might be a good fit, you'll think of me, right? And as human beings, we want to help. So we say, sure, Tim. But the problem with it is our mind doesn't have to do anything. It's much too general.
Yeah.
So I know you're going to get into that. We're going to talk about, the specifics on how to make the ask. And it's very different from that. Hey, if you know anybody that needs insurance, anybody that needs X, let me know. And then we don't get anything. It's because the approach is wrong.
Right. We haven't painted any type of picture that somebody can visualize or think about. It's a drive-by statement.
Yep.
The last one in here is, and I think we've covered this in the chat, right? We're afraid to do it. Therefore, we don't do it at all, right? We talk about it maybe, but we don't actually do it. And I would say, tell me if you agree with this, Tim, most of our clients really would probably benefit from a referral-based business.
Yeah, I think 100%. The referrals, especially when you're intentional in how you give and get them, are so powerful. There's such high closing rates, and you can really set the table for a predictable growth pattern over time. And so, yeah, I think that so many people don't do it at all, or they figure that their clients are going to mysteriously, organically just start spewing out referrals because you're top of mind is really a missed opportunity for everyone.
Absolutely. So let's switch gears here a little bit, talk about what can we do, right? Given the context of what we've talked about the past few minutes. I think number one, be intentional. And you guys have heard me, my mantra for 21 is intentionality, right? Doing things on purpose, being very intentional about what I'm doing. What does this mean for you guys in the context of asking for referrals?
Tim?
Yeah, I think this one is a monster. Being intentional in getting referrals means that you've got to put this in your behavior cookbook. This has to be part of your prospecting strategy, and not let it become wishy-washy or optional. Like, you have to actively create a plan for getting referrals, who to give them to, who to get them from. And so being intentional, I think, is that's the strategic part. And then you have to actually do, and that's the tactical part. So you've got to be intentional in both.
John,
I agree. I think, as I said, it's a proactive process. We have to have that belief that people are better off with our help than our competitor or somebody else. We wouldn't hesitate to ask, to your point, hey, Jim, I'm looking for a good dentist or a landscaper or whatever. We ask all the time. Why not in our own businesses? If we believe that we have a cure for whatever pain somebody's suffering from, why would we not want to ask, who does it make sense for me to have a conversation with?
Absolutely.
Right.
I think Tim said something in there that I want to make sure we don't skim over, which is we've got to consider who we're going to give referrals to. And I think this is part of the intentionality of it. If I want to get more referrals, I should be giving more referrals. And this, I think, speaks to a statistic that I reference all the time in training, call it the 20-60-20 rule, right? 20% of the population is out there actively looking to connect you with somebody else, right? I'm that type of person. My ears are always on. I'm a connector of people. My wife is really, really good at our dentist, right? Really good at giving our dentist referrals. She's always looking for that connection. There's another 20% of the world that's never, ever, ever going to give a referral. I don't want my name associated with that. What if it goes sideways? I don't believe in it. That's perfectly fine. The 60% that's left over will do it if we ask and if we frame it up correctly. The problem is we're either not framing it correctly or we're not asking, which I think speaks to being intentional. Next one is, on the same vein of being intentional, is time blocking this out. We've got to make it a habit. If we really want a referral-based business, we've got to schedule it in. So any recommendations on the frequency of the referral ask?
I think it's got to fit your business. I mean, it's a lot to go into, and we've mentioned it before in other grab and goes, but there's an acronym called AIR that I like to use with people, and I'll have a conversation. Maybe I'll list out 20, 30, 40 people, and I might call up and Jim and have a conversation with you and say, hey, I'd love to get your advice on who maybe I should be talking to. That's the A.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'd love to get your impression of what I'm doing and maybe where I should be spending my time. Or the R is, Tim, maybe some recommendations on who you think might make sense for me to have a conversation with. It's very easy. It's a very easy ask on the conversation. Again, we're not asking for, a big thing. We're simply saying who might make sense for me to have a conversation with. I schedule that time, every single week to do that as part of my strategy. Yeah.
Excellent. I appreciate that. I think that, the next thing is we've got to have a process for the referral ask. And this is where we want to get into some tactics here. There are a number of ways that we could do this. We're going to focus on one today, and we call it CAPS, CAPS. And CAPS is a process for the referral ask. First and foremost, we've got to figure out our frequency for this, right? As John said, it's got to fit our business. So AIR is a great acronym for that. I may do that weekly. I may do that every other week. It's got to fit my rhythm of the business. I think we've got to be intentional about what we're doing. So I may set up a time with John, for example, and say, look, I want to specifically talk to you about people that you may know, and frame a good agreement on that. And that's what we're actually doing, right? Again, being intentional. And then we want to talk about using CAPS, how we frame this up, right? So CAPS is an acronym that stands for characteristics, alternatives, pains, and symptoms. And I'll let John and Tim kind of walk us through a couple of examples of what this might look like. So, John, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, I'll take, characteristics. For example, a simple characteristic could be that, somebody within, 20 miles of Medford, New Jersey, where I am. That's a characteristic. Maybe for like Pat O'Brien with the Braddock Barclay Agency or Barclay Braddock Agency, it is a new family that just welcomed a new child, or someone that's a new homeowner that within, the Mount Laurel, Moorestown, Medford area. There are specific characteristics. And then Tim, you want to take actions or pains?
Yeah, no, I'll take actions. So, when we're looking at actions, you're looking at activities that indicate that they're addressing the types of problems that they come to you for. So, in the world of training, for example, to build on John's, to be within 15 miles of a training center, of my Sandler training center in Fort Worth. And they're typically manufacturing or service related, businesses that are struggling with pipeline and things like that. They're managing, large teams of salespeople and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Sure. And then pains, we'll stick with the insurance, for us, a pain, for example, if we were looking for people in the insurance business, their sales team does not have a process or fears around asking for referrals. And as a result, they're doing well, but they could be doing better, and they're frustrated by that. Yeah. So that would be the pain, and then a symptom, right? Yeah. The pain is, and then the result or that symptom is they're doing well, but they're just not getting as much new business in the top of the pipe and top of the funnel as they should.
And so if we were to write all this out and, it might sound something like this. So Tim, as you think about your circle of influence, for example, right? When I look at clients that I work well with, they're typically owners or principals in manufacturing companies. They're roughly 30 miles from Fort Wayne or Medford or Fort Worth, right? They're typically frustrated that they depend on too few customers to drive the majority of their revenue, and they're looking to improve that. They often find that they're doing things like spending more on marketing. They're hiring salespeople that don't always turn out to be great. They know that it's not working well, and they're open to new ideas, right? So Tim, as you think about your world, right? Anybody that fits that profile that pops out at you. Part of what we're doing here is really to paint the picture, right? Instead of giving the drive-by, hey, Tim, anytime you think about somebody who needs sales training, right? Think of me, right? This paints a completely different picture. Would encourage everybody to take a screenshot of that and massage it to fit your world. You know, from a tactical perspective. But I do want to go to a chat. We've got a couple great things in chat really quick. Garrett writes that he runs into competitive mindsets often. People know who he should speak to in their area, but they're afraid that they may be helping their competitor's business and that they in turn will be negatively impacted. So that would be like me saying, gosh, I want to give you a referral, but if John or Tim gets the business, then I might be negatively impacted. I think I'm understanding that correctly. You guys have thoughts on that? How do you go ahead and work through that type of objection with a referral where they know they want to introduce you to somebody, but hey, they're kind of a competitor? How do you handle that? That's an interesting.
I mean, in our business, in the corporate world, I mean, we would run into that. I mean, we didn't run into it too often. I think the approach, I don't know necessarily that somebody's going to say, well, hey, let me pick up the phone and call over to the president of my major competitor and make the introduction so you can train their sales force so they can better get business away from me. But yeah. I think maybe not a direct referral, but what we always would say is we would talk about the competition. Mm-hmm. So who's your biggest competitor in this area? Do you even have one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do. We have several, such as, right? And you reverse, right? And then they'll say, well, we have so-and-so and so-and-so. And then it depends. You need to understand, is it friendly competition where they oftentimes share business, or are they direct competitors where somebody wins, somebody loses? So yeah, I think you need to understand who you're talking to. And I don't necessarily think they have to do all the work, but if you can find out who are the competitors or who are the other people in the industry doing what you do, then you can do the rest of that legwork. Not necessarily be an introduction.
Yeah.
As I think about that statement, I want to caution us. I want to caution everybody to not let head trash get in the way of asking for referrals. So what you see on the screen here is literally looks like an ideal client profile that we all do when we're trying to create our prospecting pool, and the challenge here is to not assume that by asking for our clients for referrals is automatically going to trigger like something in them that the first thing we're going to do is go to their biggest competitor and equip their competitor with all of the great stuff that we do. The fact remains that every person that we talk to has a massive pool of people that they know, and so maybe they'll filter out the people that they can perceive as a threat, but don't let that be the barrier to going out and asking those people for the referral anyway. I just want to caution everybody, don't be afraid. Even if there's a competitive mindset, maybe that competitor is only a handful of people that they know, but they have this massive library of humans that they do know, and they will refer you to. So don't let one cancel out the other.
I think there's something to be said in there too about having an abundance mindset, right? There's plenty of work to go around for most of us. I believe that. when I was a client, there were other tech companies that wanted to come into training, but they wanted to protect their turf. And what I learned from my Sandler trainer was that, look, we all should be exposed, right? So whether it's training or whether it's banking or whether it's, other services, we all should be exposed. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to who plays the game better. So if there's two tech companies in training, right, and I'm going to play the game better, I'll win. The other thing that we learned is that when we sat with other tech companies, it pushed us and challenged us. So I think there's something to be said about the abundance mindset. Amy wrote, Read the Go-Giver, right? That's Bob Berg's book on paying it forward, Go-Giver. The idea is that by doing so, it comes back tenfold. I definitely get that though, and we've seen that quite a bit where somebody either doesn't want, their competitor knowing what they know, or they don't want to be in our training. For example, if there's other general contractors or oil and gas companies in there. And I always talk about one, the abundance mindset, and two, how do we push and challenge each other? I mean, imagine if all of a sudden your competition was all wiped out, would you be challenged to grow, or would you find a comfort zone? Right? I like competition. It pushes me, it challenges me, it makes me better. So I want to go to the last slide because I think that more so than anything else, right? I think that, this might be one of the things that holds us back a little bit. Quick thought on this as we enter our last minute of time.
Yeah, I think, when you see this, I mean, it's a very visually compelling slide, and, being a beast in that, but being a beast is not maybe what the impression of doing something extraordinary that other people won't do, or taking big risks or big actions. The difference maker is doing the ordinary things consistently. It's about consistency. It's
right.
not who has the absolute best verbiage for the ask. It's asking, following a process, doing it consistently. That's the difference maker. It's not the extraordinary.
Absolutely. Yeah. That lion walks the field every day on the hunt, right? Those behaviors are daily. And so it's that consistency, John. I think you hit it right on the head. We're at 1:00. Would love for you to 1:00 Eastern time. Would love for you to throw a takeaway in the chat as we're leaving here. Appreciate everybody being on our Wednesday grab and go session. We will be back next week for another episode of our Wednesday grab and go growth tactics session. Appreciate everybody being here. Throw in a takeaway in chat as we wrap up. Have a great week, everyone.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Any questions too, feel free to put in there.
There you go.
Let's see. Strategy ask referrals. Great. Caps. Good. Caps. Excellent.
Good stuff.
Good. Okay.
Fun stuff.
Awesome. All right,
fellas.
everyone. Have a great
Good
day.
to see
Gentlemen,
everybody. Good to see you again,
always good
Pat.
to be with you.
Thanks, everybody.
Pat, it's been too long
Chris,
since we've
good to
talked.
see you. Bill Townsend. Couple different ways to access the recordings. We can send it directly to you. They are on, John, I don't know if you have them on your website.
We do. Yep.
Yep, they're on each one of our websites, the recording links and the access codes to get there. So depending on who your closest Sandler owner is, you can either go to John's website, my website, or Tim's website, which actually will be on the next screen right there. Am I still sharing the screen?
You are not.
I'm not.
It's okay. Excellent. Good.
I'll get it to you, Bill.
So I see an 856 phone number, and I don't know who that is that dialed in. Ends in, I don't know, my glasses, 1594. Don't know who that was. Okay. All right. Well, good seeing everybody. Reach out if you have any questions. Happy to help.
All right. See you, Johnny. Have a great
Bye,
day.
Jimmy. Bye, everybody.